Hi, my name is Emily Iannelli, and I am a male to female transgender woman. I'm gonna read another entry from my blog. The numbers play around in my head. I always knew my ABCs, but arithmetic was a challenge. I spent countless hours trying to figure out how to do my math assignments. My mom would sit by my side and help me with the patience of a saint. I always remember having to solve problems, and that was exactly what they were, problems. I worked to solve them and tried my very best to understand the questions and answer them, but sometimes all I could do was just find myself exasperated. I was never one to give up, so I kept plugging away. I finally got the hang of it, and then the rug was pulled from under me. I had my first algebra lesson and learned about word problems and solving with X and Y. It was an adjustment at first, but I forged ahead because I always had dreams of becoming an engineer. I envisioned my understanding of solving these word problems would make me able to move onwards in mathematics. Algebra was only the beginning. Next was geometry and understanding shapes and applying formulas. It seemed formulaic solutions were always the requisite to answering the problems. I devoted myself to mathematics and was very interested in its mystique and power it held, and just having the knowledge. It seemed if you could do mathematics, you could do anything. An engineering mindset, a love for engineering. It all started in my kindergarten class, when my teacher and my mom recognized my need for tutoring in my math class. I was a slow learner as a child, but I always applied myself and tried my best. It was the dedication of both my teacher and my mom that set me straight and helped me in developing my mathematical skills and reinforced my desire to learn. As a result, I gained in an appreciation and a love of the math and sciences. I was always interested in learning how things worked, and I also enjoyed working through and completely understanding my math assignments with the help and encouragement of my mom. As I learned and progressed with mathematics, I started to gain confidence and actually enjoyed learning and looked forward to the challenges of the assignments. My dad was a very dedicated iron worker, and he shared many stories of his experiences working in construction, and he showed me many pictures through the years working on the high iron. As a result, I had a desire to learn about bridge building and the construction of highways, roadways, tunnels, ballparks, buildings, homes, automobiles, rockets, and electronic devices. For a child growing up in the 1960s, I was influenced a great deal by the space program, and I found it very exciting watching coverage of the Gemini and Apollo space missions. I was just a baby when President John F. Kennedy made his famous speech about landing a man on the moon's surface before the end of the decade. Great strides had been made from that day onward, evidenced by the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo space programs. I was too young for both the Mercury and Gemini programs, but I have pretty vivid memories of the Apollo space program. I remember the tragedy of the Apollo 1 launch pad fire occurring during a simulation that claimed the lives of 3 astronauts, Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee, in January 1967. This was a very sad start to the program, but NASA was determined to move on and accomplish what President John F. Kennedy had envisioned and expressed so eloquently in his speech. The Apollo 11 mission was the one that stands out most in my mind because that was when we saw on July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong take his first steps on the moon's lunar surface and say the famous words, "That's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." As a kid, I was impressed with NASA and the astronauts training program and the educational backgrounds of all the astronauts. Most of them had studied engineering, mathematics, physics, and chemistry in college, and all of them were extremely well disciplined as a result of their military experience in the service of their country. They also were very dedicated to their training regimen upon acceptance into NASA's astronaut program. I thought Mission Control was an amazing grouping of engineers, scientists, and some of the best minds in the country and world. When Apollo 13 had encountered difficulties that put the lives of the crew members in danger in their return mission home, it was the dedicated and joint effort of Mission Control to help simulate potential problems and come up with solutions so they could properly advise the astronauts in their safe return home that after all is what an engineer is trained to do. Engineering is all about precision, technological innovation, problem solving, and finding solutions. It is very challenging curriculum in school and demands a great deal of focus, concentration, and dedication. Some students are naturally inclined in learning the principles and theories, and others have to really apply themselves and study all the time. I fell into this category as a student where I had to apply myself, and I worked hard at it and was determined to do my best. My favorite subject throughout my studies in school was mathematics, which is a powerful and very interesting course of study. The whole basis for engineering is the study of math and science principles. I am inclined to think that engineers have a different mindset in that they are real problem solvers and like to understand and evaluate the inner workings of something and make the appropriate decisions that require a great deal of analysis based on scientific and mathematical theories. I have always found that engineers who study fatigue, stress failure, or the aftermath of a plane crash and piece the evidence together to find a viable explanation, whether it be aircraft parts scattered at crash sites or a part of a bridge that collapsed due to fatigue and stress failure, truly incredible. They use what they learn in the classroom and apply it to the outside world and the situations that require their expertise and knowledge. After every airline crash, it is a mandatory practice to gather the pieces of the aircraft, the black box, and any other relevant evidence, and painstakingly reconstruct the airliner in a hangar as best they can with what they recover to determine the reason or potential reason for the crash. Some things you just don't learn in a textbook, as there is no substitute than the real thing. In the automotive industry, there are all sorts of testing for driver and passenger safety, and simulated collisions with varying speeds are always being performed to make safer cars to ensure the continued safety of drivers and their passengers. Engineers are always looking to design sleek cars that are fuel efficient and safe. These are the criteria they establish in the design stage of an automobile. When I drive near an airport with my son and we see large aircraft passing over us, it is really quite amazing to see. I always point this out to my son enthusiastically and remind him how truly incredible it is to see such large planes flying, and remind him that they were all designed by engineers. They are in many fields of study. I would suggest to young students and one in particular would be engineering. Within engineering, there are many specialties to consider. The main fields or endeavors that are engineering related are mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer and software engineering, civil engineering, industrial engineering, chemical engineering, automotive engineering, aerospace engineering, metallurgical engineering, agricultural engineering, ocean and environmental engineering, mining and materials engineering, and biomedical engineering. All students are required to take a course of engineering, mathematical, and science-related courses in their first 2 years of study, with a core of English, arts, and humanities as well that typically include Calculus 1, 2, and 3, differential, integral, multivariable, linear algebra, physics, heat and sound, electricity and magnetism, principles of modern physics, chemistry 1, inorganic, chemistry 2, inorganic, statics and strength of materials, engineering dynamics, engineering circuit analysis 1 and 2, engineering thermodynamics, computer science 1 and 2, English literature, English composition, microeconomics, macroeconomics, principles of accounting 1 and 2, and engineering electives. An engineering curriculum is a well-balanced program that includes math, science, technical, and the arts and sciences. It is a challenging course of study and a very interesting and exciting endeavor, and the student has the flexibility of studying at a 2-year college and transferring to a 4-year institution. There are many fine institutions for engineering studies, and the most prestigious would most likely be the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. My preference is Virginia Tech, having studied there and enjoying my time as an undergraduate engineering transfer student. Raising a son with Asperger's, I find my son has amazing aptitude and has a love of math and science, which I think is wonderful. I will always encourage him to learn and challenge himself and to continue his interest in the math and sciences. I also believe that many Asperger kids gravitate to the math and sciences and eventually continue their love of it by pursuing engineering as a field of interest. It is well documented that many engineers display common patterns and traits associated with Asperger's, and many diagnosed individuals on the autistic spectrum are engineers, mathematicians, scientists, writers, and teachers by professional choice. As I think back to my days as a student of engineering and the challenges and accomplishments, I look back with great fondness and joy and wonder how that time has seemingly passed me by so quickly. We all should enjoy our years as college students, as those days define us in the success we seek and the job we perform. I will always have a love for engineering and hope that we find happiness and joy in all we do. I learned from the best, my parents and my teachers, Edward D. Iannelli III, Emily Iannelli. And this is one of my blog entries. This is actually another hub page entry, and this one is called An Engineering Mindset. And I have some pictures, but this is essentially my writing. It's a 3-page writing, or 2-page writing, a little more than 2 pages. But I write, and this was my little introduction that I used from my Apple iPhone in my intro. I think engineering is one of the most important fields, and I applaud all engineers. And I applaud my dad. He's the one who inspired me, and my mom, for helping me get through my math assignments. I love you both, and I dedicate this to my son. I believe he can do anything. Emily.